Cold calling technology, strategies for efficiency. Cold calling in 2025, the efficiency era. Cold calling isn't dead, it's just brutally honest about waste. In 2025, the average cold calling success rate is around 2.3%, down from 4.82% in 2024. So, more activity only works if it creates more real conversations and qualified meetings. If your team is still dialing like it's 2010, the math will beat you. The shift isn't philosophical, it's operational. The average B2B seller makes roughly 52 calls per day with about a 7% connect rate, which means tiny gains in speed, answer rate, and follow-up discipline compound fast. The goal is simple: multiply quality conversations per SDR without sacrificing brand trust. At SalesHive, we treat cold calling technology as a system, not a shopping list. Dialers, data, CRM workflows, and coaching only matter if they increase connect rate, talk time, and meetings booked, cleanly and repeatably. This article walks through the practical stack and the operating rules we've seen work across modern B2B cold calling programs. Why technology now determines results. Cold calling still works because it creates immediate, two-way dialogue with decision makers, something email and ads can't match in the same way. But the channel has become less forgiving. Lower response, more call screening, and more crowded outreach means your workflow must be engineered for efficiency, not hope. That's why the best teams think like operators. They measure every step from lead created to meeting booked. The biggest hidden drag is time. Sales reps spend only about 35% of their time actually selling, with the rest leaking into admin, CRM updates, and tool hopping. A modern outbound sales agency mindset asks, what can we automate? What must be standardized? And where do we need human judgment? This is where cold calling services and sales outsourcing providers often outperform internal teams early. They build a single motion and enforce it. Whether you run an in-house SDR team or partner with an SDR agency, the play is the same: tight ICP targeting, fast dialing, disciplined follow-up, and a feedback loop that turns call outcomes into better lists and scripts. Build the minimum viable cold calling tech stack. Most teams don't need a shiny object zoo. They need a minimum viable stack that connects 4 pieces: accurate prospect data, a sales dialer, a CRM as the system of record, and reporting that ties calls to meetings and pipeline. When those parts aren't connected, reps end up retyping notes, managers can't trust dashboards, and follow-ups slip. Exactly the kind of silent failure that makes cold calling feel dead. Start with the conversation you want to create: persona, problem, offer, talk track. Then work backward into tools. If a tool doesn't clearly increase connects, talk time, or meeting rates, it's noise. This is also where a cold email agency or LinkedIn outreach services can complement calling, but the phone stack must stand on its own first. When we audit an outbound program, we time box each step and look for minutes lost to manual work. Even basic dialer to CRM automation can create meaningful lift. Some teams report CRM integration improves sales productivity by up to 34% because logging and next steps happen automatically. That gain is often larger than any single script tweak because it creates more selling minutes per day. Dialer strategy. Pick the right mode without burning your list. Dialers are the engine of modern B2B cold calling services. But the best dialer mode depends on the deal. Power dialers can push reps toward 100 calls per hour compared to roughly 30 calls per hour manually. And some automated dialing approaches show about 92% more calls per hour versus manual workflows. The point isn't to chase dials, it's to create more at-bats for quality connects. Predictive dialers can increase agent productivity by 200 to 300% by eliminating wait time, which works best for high-volume, lower-complexity qualification where the script is tight and the ICP is clear. For mid-market and enterprise outreach, preview or conservative power dialing often wins, because giving an SDR 30 to 60 seconds of context can improve relevance and reduce the spammy feel that burns brand equity. The common mistake is buying a dialer before defining the outbound process. Before you turn up volume, document your ICP, call outcomes, follow-up rules, and the exact dispositions you'll allow, and what each triggers. Then, pilot one mode with a small pod for 4 weeks, comparing connects and meetings to your baseline. That's how a sales development agency builds a dialer configuration that scales instead of creating chaos. If the technology doesn't get your SDR into more high-quality conversations and make it easier to learn from every call, it's not a stack, it's just expensive noise. Integrations and automation. Turn activity into a reliable workflow. Once the dialer is chosen, the real efficiency gains come from integration. Your dialer, CRM, and sequencing tools should behave like one system. Dispositions and notes should sync automatically. Tasks should be created without manual effort, and sequences should adapt based on what happened on the call. When call outcomes don't flow into the CRM, SDRs duplicate work and managers lose visibility into what's actually working. This is where many teams unlock disproportionate wins because it directly attacks the only 35% selling time problem. If your reps are toggling tabs, retyping call summaries, or forgetting follow-ups, you're not just losing minutes, you're losing revenue opportunities. A clean integration also protects list health because it prevents overcalling contacts, missing opt-outs, or running conflicting outreach across channels. For teams that want pay-per-meeting lead generation outcomes, the workflow has to be ruthless. Every call ends in a valid disposition. Every disposition triggers a next step. And every next step is measurable. That's how an outsourced sales team maintains consistency across reps and weeks. And it's the same discipline we recommend even if you keep everything in-house. Common tech pitfalls and the fixes that actually stick. The most expensive mistake we see is optimizing for dial volume instead of conversations and meetings. High dials can hide bad data, weak targeting, and rushed scripts, especially when aggressive predictive dialing is used on complex B2B accounts. Shift scorecards toward connects per hour, talk time quality, and connect-to-meeting conversion, and your tooling choices become much clearer. Another avoidable failure is letting the dialer and CRM become separate islands. If dispositions, notes, and follow-up tasks don't sync automatically, your dashboards turn into fiction and your sequences drift out of alignment. Standardize a small set of dispositions, automate the next steps off each one, and audit the data weekly until it's clean enough to trust. Finally, don't let reps freestyle powerful features without guardrails. Local presence, voicemail drops, and rapid redials can improve efficiency, but unmanaged, they can create inconsistent prospect experiences and compliance risk. Good cold calling companies bake guardrails into playbooks and the tools themselves. Approved caller IDs, caps on daily attempts, clear opt-out handling, and consistent messaging across calling and email touches. Conversation intelligence. Use calls as coaching fuel, not a recording archive. Conversation intelligence becomes high impact when it changes behavior. Teams using these tools report around a 25% increase in sales productivity and a 15% increase in revenue, but only when leaders actively coach from real calls. Recordings are useless if they sit in a folder. They're valuable when they become weekly training material. Keep it simple. Pick 2 to 3 metrics you'll coach to consistently. Talk-listen ratio, objection handling, discovery depth, and review a small sample every week. In practice, reviewing just a few calls per rep, especially the calls that connected but didn't convert, creates faster improvement than generic enablement sessions. Over time, you can build a library of what good looks like clips that scale onboarding for new cold callers. AI should help SDRs personalize at scale, not sound robotic faster. Use enrichment signals, funding, hiring, tech stack, role changes to surface one or two relevant reasons for the call. Then train reps to deliver that insight naturally. This is where our approach at SalesHive blends process and tech, better inputs, cleaner workflows, and coaching loops that improve every week. Next steps: build versus buy, and how to scale without losing quality. To scale cold calling, you need a repeatable operating system, data that stays fresh, a dialer mode mapped to deal complexity, an integrated CRM workflow, and coaching that turns outcomes into improvements. If any of those pieces are missing, volume just amplifies the problem. The fastest way to start is an end-to-end workflow audit. Map what an SDR does from new lead created to meeting booked. Time each step and fix the largest time sinks first. From there, run controlled pilots. Choose a small pod, one ICP slice, one dialer mode, and a 4-week test plan with clear KPIs: connect/hour, meeting/week, connect to meeting conversion. If the numbers don't move after 60 to 90 days, don't blame the tool by default. Check the list quality, the talk track, the disposition rules, and the integration health. If you don't have bandwidth to hire, train, manage tooling, and run coaching, partnering with a B2B sales agency can be the faster path to pipeline, especially if you're exploring sales outsourcing or want an outsourced B2B sales motion without building everything from scratch. As you evaluate a cold calling agency or outbound sales agency, ask for proof of process, not just promises, clarity on reporting, and the discipline to tie activity to meetings and revenue. That's what separates dependable providers from more dials vendors.